Howdy folks, it is Diecastbuffet here again. Today we have a very special custom raced win Grant Enfinger truck from 2023. It's the Milwaukee Mile, well, the return of the Craftsman Truck Series, and the raced win custom. I took a stock version of his 2023 paint scheme, completely edited it, made all kinds of changes to it to make it as authentic as possible. And without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into today's diecast review. Alrighty, folks, right off the good old base and check out this diecast. Let me tell you, the amount of work, the hours, the detail, the photo references, all the crap you gotta do just to come up with a, kind of a complete build to make it look as authentic as possible, to give it that extra detail that you want to see in a custom diecast. And this is one of my favorite builds of all time. Now, the actual paint scheme itself came from a stock Grant Enfinger paint scheme. Fortunately, it actually got made. But a lot of modifications actually had to be made to it to make this work. So let's go ahead and go across the truck. And of course, for all your diecast shopping needs, this video is brought to you by our good friends at Circle B Diecast. Make sure to use promo code next time over there at checkout. You can save on shipping, guys. Use code Diecastbuffet. And as you go over to the front of the truck, you can clearly see the satin sheen or matte sheen that's actually on the truck, and a little bit of a Larry McNugget. The original matte clear coat was a lot more semi-gloss. This is a lot more of a matte finish. It's a lot more dull, so to speak. And you can see how glossy the windshield is. Holy cow. So you got Champion Power Equipment right there in the hood. You can see all the little spots of rubber and dirt and all kinds of dirt and grime. Powering your life, if I could English, that'd be nice. Now this is where a lot of things become really difficult to build when you're doing a race to win custom, because some people, they just might put some Sharpie marks on it and be done with it. But I want to go with as much detail as possible. Each one of these little these grill tape markings are based on photo reference. So you look at the photo and you're like, oh, this goes there and this goes there. That's a lot of detail you got to put on there. You got to clear coat it and you got to adjust it and all kinds of stuff. And you can see all the little spots and whatnot around there. Unfortunately, there was not a lot of photos that showed the left side of the truck post race. Only really the other side, which would be the right side of the truck, the passenger side of the vehicle. And kind of had to wing it a little bit on the other end. But for the most part, you kind of get a feel for how the raced wins are supposed to look. Like if the front end's got a bunch of dirt and grime, and the right side's got a bunch of dirt and grime, the left side's probably going to have it as well. And this is a little bit of an inaccuracy here, is because again, this is the stock truck that was modified. Is that the playoff banner or the red splitter actually goes behind the ARP decal and the Sunoco decal here, and it goes across the bottom. Well, since again it's a stock truck, I had to kind of improvise and paint the splitter there. Personally, I like the splitter being painted more than the line behind it, but you know how that goes. You gotta do what you gotta do. So anyways, you got the front. Now this front box right here, this is actually decaled. I changed it up to make it more of a short track front grille style. The trucks still run different aero, or I say aero, but the front end packages depending on the racetrack. So this was more of a short track joint. Change it up to make it more accurate. Anyways, go to the left side of the diecast here, and this is one of my favorite features of this build, and I'll show it kind of in detail. We're going to zoom in here, so bear with me. But the little markings on the tire, I've never done this with a Raced Win 124. So anyways, this is based off photos and as much detail as I could find. Again, I could not find a photo of the left side of the truck post-race, so I kind of had to wing it a little bit. But you can see a little bit of some, some paint marks and stuff. It's not really legible, but, it just gives it that detail. And then you go over here to the side, you can see more dirt and grime. You get your little jack post arrow. These little pop rivet dots, I did add that as well to add a little bit more detail. And this is where the paint scheme got really challenging. And you can see a little bit of a patchwork job, but this is the only way I can make it work. It's because the decals were all different. Like the NASCAR race truck decal is not there on the truck when it actually raced. I had to fit the playoff decal, the round of 10. Had to do all that, so I kind of had to move things around and shuffle around to make it as accurate as possible. Now, going underneath the tires are actually artificially aged. Like, I actually like grind down the whatever the top part of the tire to give it that kind of textured, rough edge to it, so to speak. You can see the left rear here. There's a little bit more wear on the Goodyear lettering because this is where a burnout would be, and obviously, it's the throttle, right? So you're going to be spinning these tires more likely to be, picking up stuff off the racetrack and slinging it. But you can just see a little bit of spits and sputters of little parts of, whatever rubber buildup. You can see a little bit of gas spillage there, a little bit of some stainage. And again, most of the truck is pretty much stock, but I did re-clear coat the whole truck, so there is modifications to it. Go to the back end of the truck, not much to go off from here, just simple, kind of just usual wear and tear. Oh yeah, I forgot. I did paint the gas tank on this red. I know that's not 100% accurate. I did paint this as well. It's not a super good paint job, but But anyways, I did paint this as well because I don't know, I like red gas tanks. And I also did paint the spoiler. Now, it's not a perfect paint job, but red's a very difficult paint to work with sometimes because of how it's thin. And then you have to put a layer and clear coat it and layer it. So it's a lot more work than most people would anticipate. So over to the right rear of the truck, this is probably the most interesting part of this build, perhaps, is the right rear is actually used up a little bit. But this is where you kind of have to make a compromise. So on the real truck, the Allegiant decal is actually moved up closer here. And this little green little marking, which I don't know who ran into him, but he had a marking there. It might have been from the wall paint or something. Anyways, it wasn't on the Allegiant decal like that. But again, this is a stock truck. So naturally, you have to put the stripe over the Allegiant decal. So that's a little bit of an inaccuracy, but I literally couldn't modify that. It would have looked a little bit goofy. When you think of like black paint or decals, you think they're all the same, but they're actually not. If you shine them under a light, you can definitely see a difference. I know it sounds weird, but that's the truth. And I noticed something that when I was scraping this, it was starting to chip and flake a little bit, so I actually painted some of these scratch marks on there. I could have done a little bit of better job, but it was actually giving me a more realistic look than just actually scratching it and actually chipping the paint when I actually had to touch up. So that's something I learned. Now this is based off photo reference here. The wheels. I wish the writing was a little bit smaller, but again, you got to use what you got to use. It's rubber. Not a lot of things like to adhere to rubber. You do see the little tape right there, the little pit stop tape or whatnot. I did add that. The little white lines are like tape residue where it worn off and stuff. You have your little exhaust port. Now I believe this whole panel right here was actually black on the real truck. I didn't do that there. I should have probably, at least that's what my memory shows me. Got your jack post arrow. Again, you can see a little pop rivet design. That's actually painted on. It's not perfect. I didn't have really a decal to do that with, so I had to hand paint it and just kind of go with the flow. You can see, again, some small little scrapage built up, not really scrapage, but more or less just built up. And this is the worst part of the truck is, again, the coverage job, because there wasn't a decal set really for it, so I had to make my own, and having to print and size everything, that's a lot of work to do. And you don't have the best of equipment, so you have to layer it and stack it because it's transparent. So it's not super perfect, but again, it's a custom. You got to do if I could have done this truck, stripped it down to the bare metal and X, Y, and Z, I could have had a decal set that did all that for me. And back to the right front, again, this is photo reference. So the right side of the truck looks a lot better than the left side because this is based on actual photos that I have of the truck. Obviously, you can see the wheels have a little bit of lug nut paint to them. And I originally painted a yellow line between the rim and the tire. And I realized that the truck didn't have a yellow line. If you look back at a lot of stock cars, they usually do have a yellow line there. So I actually went back over it with black paint. What was cool about it is it gave it a little bit more of a texture to it, kind of a grimy oil texture, which was really nice. We're going to zoom back out here. So basically why the matte finish is different than it was stock is because you have to clear coat things, right? So I clear coated it, and then I was like, okay, it's all glossy. So I put my own matte coat on there. And yeah, that's how it got there. So I actually like this clear coat a whole lot better than the factory one, because the factory one was more like a semi-gloss. It was a lot more shinier. This one is like a true matte. It's my favorite clear coat. And back to that point I made earlier in the video, that not all black paints are the same. You could see a little bit of markage on the hood of like some dirt and grime. That is black paint on black decal. So you can just see there is a slight difference. The oils and the pigments and stuff, it does show up differently when you have studio lighting. And it definitely off camera, it's a lot more noticeable. Get the top of the truck with a little TV pod. Oh yeah, the front windshield. I didn't even touch on this. So the original truck just had the Craftsman banner, but since this is a playoff diecast, I had to completely change it up. So I had to put 2 layers of this decal here to get it to be bright enough. I had a homemade, pretty much homemade it. And then you have your little tear-off decals there. Just a buttload of detail. I'm telling you how many hours I put on this thing. Holy cow. Oh yeah, the interior is actually decorated as well. We're going to try to get a light in there if we can. It's hard to do, but basically, yeah, you can see it in there. You can see it there. You got the dashboard. You got your little red joint there. You got your steering wheel. There's chrome and stuff painted on there. The shifter is painted. So there is some interior detail as well. Now, this back window is a little bit inaccurate because on the real truck, I believe there's no black banner at the top. I believe it's all just, clear. And then they had the Enfinger wording and the playoff logo with a transparent background. Well, since this again, it's a stock truck, I wanted to keep the rest of the window bars on there, because if I cleaned it off, it would remove all the window texture. I just put the little playoff decal next to the original name decal there. And you go to the bed of the truck. I believe this was exactly stock as the raced version, so I didn't touch that. And the last little tidbit, we have your Chevrolet doohickey. Let me see if I can get it on camera. There we go. You got your Chevrolet decal right there on the spoiler, and you got a little bit of some race wear markings. All in all, this was a extremely time-consuming build. You think these things are really simple, but when you're doing a raced version and you're really passionate about builds, you want to give it as much accuracy as possible. And that's what I shoot for. I definitely challenged myself with this build with doing the detail on the tires. I seen other people do that, and I'm like, dude, I want to do that. Like, that's so freaking cool. And definitely something I want to do moving forward with more of these raced win builds. I love it. Again, this was a stock truck. They didn't make the raced win for Milwaukee, which is a big shame, because I love the trucks at Milwaukee, man. It's very nostalgic, and with Craftsman being back, I mean, what is this, NASCAR 06 with the 2005 series, going back there to Milwaukee was so cool. And as a huge Grant Enfinger fan, it's just like perfect, man. So thank you all so much for watching the video. I appreciate y'all tuning in. Have a blessed one, everybody. How bad did I do on this build? Hopefully I did a good enough job. I'm going to show the box that it came in as well. So this is the box that it came in. I did a diecast review on the stock version of this truck a couple months ago. And yeah, I really wish they would actually made that. That would have been such a cool playoff win. But you know what? That's the beauty of customs. When you want something, you can make it yourself. But you got to be willing to put the time in, guys. Taking a Sharpie and putting a couple dots on a vehicle and calling it a raced win, that's not something I like to do. I like to put the detail in. Anything I build, guys, I put hours, weeks, maybe even months on just one build, doing as much detail as possible. When you're passionate about something and you love something, you put in that extra mile. And this was definitely a build that challenged me to push myself further. And it's the first ever real world raced win diecast ever made in 1/24 scale. I made an iRacing diecast for my bud Rob Evans. I did a raced win. I had to imagine what would have happened on the racetrack to make it look realistic, right? Like the damage and all that stuff. I try to base it as close as I could to the game and how they do their damage. When you're doing photo references, you want to get as much accuracy as possible. And very satisfied with this build. Thank you all so much for watching. Have a blessed one. Of course, without y'all, this channel would be nothing. Let's just be honest. So to all those cats that subscribe and watch and Hey, some of y'all watch like every single video. I'm not even kidding. I see y'all commenting. I see y'all, you know, I might not reply all the time, but let me tell you, when I heart your comment, I see you. I see y'all watching the gameplay. I see y'all watching the diecast reviews. You know, I see some cats that'll put like 10 out of 10, or that's an awesome diecast review. Like, I love that. Like, I love the support. I'm so blessed and thankful for that, and I appreciate it so much. And one last little thing before I log off here, I forgot to mention the stickers up here. They were actually a lot smaller than they needed to be. That was a oopsie do by me. But yeah, that I actually had to put those on there, the race win stickers as well. They were a pain in the butt, but because it's such a small decal, and it started flaking. Because again, I had to like manually print this crap and try to get it to work. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I'll tell you, man, if you got to have the patience of a fisherman and you have to have the hands of a surgeon. You got to have a lot of patience and discipline, or you'll be chunking these things halfway across the room when they don't want to work. So have a blessed one, everybody. Diecast Buffet. Signing off.